The New York State Office of Addiction Services and Supports, or OASAS, provides this podcast as a public service. Opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the agency or state. This is Addiction, the Next Step.
Hey everybody, Jerry Gretzinger, your host for Addiction, the Next Step. Thanks for checking out this episode of the podcast. And today, the topic that we're getting into is problem gambling. You know, we've done several episodes where we discuss problem gambling, and a lot of it talks about how the landscape has changed, you know, not just in New York State, obviously, but around the world, because it used to be if you wanted to participate in some form of gambling, maybe you'd go take a day at the races, you'd go to a casino. Now, you know, if you have your phone, it's at your fingertips 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But what we're going to do today is we're going to talk to a couple of men who are working in problem gambling, trying to help folks who are living with that in their lives, who have also lived with it in their own lives. So guys, I want to introduce you and start by thanking you both for being here to share your stories. We've got Louis LeBoy. He's with the Acacia Network, the Bronx Senior Administrator for OASAS Residential Services. Thank you for sitting down with us today.
Thank you for having us, Jerry.
And we've also got Albert Aponte. He is the peer supervisor, Samaritan Daytop at the Richard Pruss Wellness Center in the Bronx. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for inviting us.
So we chatted briefly before we started rolling here today, and we said how, you know, very often what is most compelling and really most helpful is for people who may be experiencing some concerns about problem gambling in their lives to hear the stories of others. And I know, as I said, both of you have your own stories to tell. So that's how I want to start. I want to start by, you know, kind of me sitting back and hearing what you have to tell us about your experience with this in your life. So why don't you go ahead and start for us?
So Louis LeBoy from Acacia Network. So I can tell you, Jerry, that gambling started out early on in my life, where it was a cultural activity accepted with dominoes, dice, cards, bingo. It became problematic early on as a teenager, playing 3-card Monte, you know, and getting chased by the police. And it elevated into, there was a time where I was incarcerated when I was gambling for sugar, cigarettes.
Wow.
Yeah. We played cards. So it becomes problematic. My aunt played every day, at least $200 a day all her life. And that was interesting. So we thought it was normal.
So you kind of were brought up with it, really.
Right. So we thought it was fine.
And when you said early on, like how old were you?
Oh, we started gambling probably about 8 years old.
Oh. And you said it was sort of a cultural thing. It was just accepted.
It was just accepted. And we gambled for toys, desserts, cookies.
And I'm sure when you're doing that at that age, a lot of people would look at it and think it seems pretty innocent.
Normal.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
So how did it advance then from being something where you were like, you know, playing cards for cookies or candy or sugar or whatever it may be, to where it became problematic where you said, whoa, something's got to give here?
Yeah. I thought it was a job at one point. Ended up getting incarcerated. But it did get to the point where you lose everything. You know, I had co-occurring disorders where I started using substances early on as well. So that elevated to a tolerance and to a point where I became suicidal.
Really?
At the end, yeah.
And so just to give people a sense, like what was the age range you were in at that point?
I was about 38 years old.
Okay. So you had started so early on with the very, you know, simple, seemingly innocent type of gambling. And at 38, it had grown to such a point where you said you had suicidal thoughts and
jails, institutions.
What was it that led to the incarceration? Like, I know, just to kind of explain for people how significant this got.
Seeking income, seeking money to play with or to use drugs to support the habit.
So so at that point you were saying you had some co-occurring issues going on. Mm-hmm. So you had the substance, you had the gambling, and you were looking for money to be able to afford both.
Right. That became more important than anything else in my life. More important than food, family, sex. Most important. My brain was hijacked.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because some people are they're hardwired for that to be potentially more of an issue than others.
Mm-hmm, definitely. Yeah. Susceptibility, inheritance, things like that. The environment, being exposed to it.
What was the point when you decided, no more, I need to work on something here?
incarceration, solitary confinement, I started looking at myself, see what was going on. I got lucky and got recruited into Phoenix House. There was a Phoenix House in 1997 in the Department of Corrections, and they recruited me for treatment, and that helped me a great deal. It helped me identify my triggers, the consequences of continued drug use, and it implanted hope that there was a possibility that I could change at some time, and now I pass it forward to other people.
Was there a point, and I imagine there is for everyone, when they're at that bridge, if you will, when they say, okay, I've got to make a decision here. Did you look at it and say, okay, I've got an issue with gambling, I've got an issue with substances? Did you feel like I don't know if I can be helped? What can be done to get me across that bridge?
Very interesting. I didn't know there was help at the time. But I did find out there was Gamblers Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, and I started to reach out. And I learned all this through treatment, Phoenix House at the time. And I just took the initiative to try and figure out how can I stay home, stay out of trouble, get married, go on vacations, have money in my pocket. But first of all, I had to learn how to control my desire to gamble and use drugs.
Yeah. Right? So, and I want us to be able to talk. You mentioned about not being aware that there were such services and supports available. You learned about that. I do want us to talk about that, and I think we'll get into that in just a moment, because first I want to switch over to Albert, and I want you to take us through your journey that helped get you to that point where we're about to start talking about supports and services and how we moved towards, recovering from all of that. But so where did you find yourself, getting into gambling and that becoming a problem in your life?
Well, my story is more or less like Lewis's. I grew up in a family where gambling was accepted. They used to sit down at the table on a Friday after work and then get up till Monday morning to go back to work. So me as a kid, 6, 7 years old, they used to put chairs together so I could lay down on the chair and sleep. Well, that's how much they were into the gambling. So to me, seeing this, it was normal. So my mother used to scold me and punish me because she used to catch me outside pitching pennies, and from there playing dice. And as I kept growing, it kept progressing, but I didn't see it. I didn't think I have a problem, because it was normal to me. And in my culture, in the Hispanic culture, we do a lot of gambling. And which is acceptable, like cockfights, right? The boxings, baseball games, World Series, all this we used to gamble, and it was normal.
Yeah.
I saw it, we do it, my family does it. Why can't I? However, like Lewis, I got into selling drugs so I could make money, so I could now. I'm playing scratch-off tickets, So my profits was going in me using drugs and playing the scratch-off and playing the numbers, the illegal numbers, what we call bolita. So, during, again, like Louis, I also went to Phoenix House, and I give them credit, for the information that they were providing us, about addiction, and still I didn't see gambling as a problem. So, but when I wanted to buy something and it was something that was needed in the house, but I chose to gamble my money to try to make more money to do. So then I noticed I got a problem.
So that was your point where you said, wait a minute, I'm choosing gambling over necessities.
Yes, correct. That's when I realized that something's got to give. My wife told me, you're spending our money, I said, yeah, I'm trying to make more money, without taking the risk of getting arrested, because I don't want to sell drugs no more. But that didn't work out, Yep. I just kept finding myself in a hole and digging the hole deeper and deeper.
Yeah, which is often where people find themselves. The hole keeps getting deeper and deeper. I want to point out too, we've just discussed your lived experience with gambling and then obviously substance use that became a part of that as well. And we're now going to discuss how you kind of put things together to walk away from that part of your life and to be in recovery from it all. But also, I just want to point out, you both work now helping others who are in situations like you were in before, which I think is tremendous, and I think we all applaud because, that sort of peer support and advice I think is so important. And right now what you're doing, sharing your stories with people out there who may be thinking, well, I'm in this position. I don't know, has anybody ever made it through to the other side? And here are two examples of not only making it through to the other side, but now helping others do the same thing. So I think that speaks volumes right there. So let's continue to talk to the people who may be listening to this wondering, okay, so what was next? Well, you made this decision. I need to turn something around. We talked about supports and services. What were the things that were most helpful to help you get to that point where you could say, no, I'm not going to buy that scratch off. I'm not going to play those numbers. I'm going to find a different way.
You just said it, the support, finding those who better to help you than somebody that's been there, right? And staying connected, and talking about it, because there was, at one time, there was a lot of shame. I felt shame, to talk about the issues, in my life. Today, I feel proud of myself, and it's rewarding to see that I'm able to help other people, and to see them progress also, in their recovery. I can't explain that, Yeah. It's something, a feeling inside of you that you say, yes, I'm doing the right thing now.
Yeah.
Gratifying, definitely. In the beginning, I had to understand addiction, right? I went through a long journey. It took me a few years to understand addiction, to understand that gambling and drug use was only a symptom of my problem, that the problem of addiction is up here in the head, in the brain, right? The production of neurotransmitters abnormally being created for instant gratification. So I had to learn to explore new things to do. I tried ice skating. I fell on the ice in Woolman Rink. I didn't like it, so I stopped doing it. I went running. I ran the marathon, the New York City Marathon.
Wow.
It was exhilarating. I loved it. I thought I would never do it again, but 2 years later, I ran it the second time.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there was things that I had to explore and discover for myself that created pleasure, a natural high, instant gratification that produced neurotransmitters, and with support. That was only with support because I couldn't see my defects, my character defects, right? What I wanted in my life all the time was sex, drugs, gambling, and salsa, mambo, right? Most people would say sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Right. But for a Latino, that's what it is, right? So then other individuals in recovery from gambling and addiction helped me identify these consequences of drug use, the relapse triggers, right, that came from things that I saw, things that I smelled, things that I tasted, things that I heard, things that I touched, and emotions that I was going through that would bring me back to a subconscious level where I was gambling and using drugs and create these strong triggers. Yeah. And being an addict, I had this impulse to react to those thoughts. But in recovery, I learned how to put a stop sign between the thought and the reaction. So I'm still an addict. I still get cravings once in a while. I just don't respond to them the way I did.
Yeah. So as you guys were explaining this, I started thinking, and you talked about, triggers, things that come back and give you those sensations again, but you're able to put up that stop sign. I'm wondering for yourselves and for others maybe in similar situations, you talked about once playing dice or doing the scratch offs or whatever else. I mean, the fact that now, you can find wagering opportunities 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on your phone. Does that present a whole new level of potential triggers, just seeing that it's there, and then all the commercials on TV saying, hey, we'll give you $500 if you spend 10 or whatever. I mean, that's going to be a whole nother challenge to try to say, no, I'm good.
Well, for everybody's recovery is different, right? For me, it has no effect on me. However, I know a lot of people that it has effect on them, especially when they're offering free money. That's how they lure you in.
Right.
So I know that could present a problem for the individual who we're working with, right? Because like I said, for me it might not be a problem, but I know for them it is. So the thing is to help them identify that is one of their triggers, that to avoid, downloading that into your phone, you know. So.
Yeah, right. So in this whole process, right, especially with the phones now, very similar to what we went through with gambling and alcohol use and drug use, we have to develop an awareness and get support to develop a relapse prevention plan. Mm-hmm. I know I like this stuff. It's right on my phone. So I got to think about the consequences if I continue to play on the phone. I got to think about the positive affirmations if I don't. Money in my pocket, vacations, I keep my family, keep my job, my apartment.
My house.
I also need to call my support system and let them know the feelings that I'm going through. Listen, I got the phone right in my hand. I feel like pressing the button. Express your feelings and let those feelings pass, that craving pass. And then the most important thing is meet another person in recovery. Make a meeting. Find another person that has the same issue that's in recovery like you, because it's a ping pong effect, right? One day the cravings and the addiction is affecting me real hard, but might not be affecting you today. So by me talking to you, you'll support me and going through the process one day at a time, one moment at a time, one step at a time.
Yeah, the worst thing you could think is that you could do this by yourself. It's not happening. Because who better than yourself to con yourself? You start believing your own lies. So the support is very big, Yeah.
So if we do have people who are listening to this podcast or watching, whatever the case may be, and they're sort of on the fence, they're like, well, I don't know. How involved is it? I mean, do I want to pick up the phone and really talk to somebody? How would you help them make that first step? What would you say?
The first thing I would do is try and encourage them to do a self-screening. If I could get them to access a screening, they can start raising awareness about maybe I do have a problem. But the first thing I also would do is give them my phone number, right? 718-299-1100. 718-299-1100. That's Acacia Network. If you call and you tell me that you have a gambling issue, then we can start talking about possibly helping you with treatment, if that's what you need, support, if that's what you need, peer services, if that's what you need. But definitely I do recommend Gamblers Anonymous also, Gam-Anon for the family members, and financial advice that's for free now provided by OASAS, which is amazing. So I will start in those routes, letting them know what's available, that there is help available.
There's plenty of help out there now.
Yeah. And I'm glad you pointed out the different resources that are provided through the organizations here, that what OASAS is trying to do. And, our slogan is every step of the way, right? And I think the most important step is that first one. So hopefully by you giving out that phone number, you guys sharing your stories today, we're helping somebody take that first step. And it's, just to start the conversation. It can be with someone that's, not going to judge. There's nothing being held against them. They lose nothing, but they can start finding out if this is something that they should be working with somebody through. So, guys, I want to thank you both. Louis, Albert, thank you so much for coming out and sharing your stories today, and keep up the good work. And you said you feel proud when you help somebody. Well, I'll tell you, all of us here at OASAS are so proud of the two of you and everybody who does the type of work you do, taking your experiences to help others through there. So we applaud you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
It's all about love for humanity.
Yep. And there's a lot of it here. We can tell that for sure. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
One thing we share our story is not to boast, but is to inspire people, and motivate them to change.
And we hope to have done that today. All right, so I'm going to share some more information for you. If you're looking to take that first step, you can always find OASAS supports and services online, oasas.ny.gov, oasas.ny.gov. There's also our Hope line, 877-8-HOPE-NY, 877-8-HOPE-NY. Make a call any time of day. Send us an email. Send a text to the Hope line. You can do that too. Lots of people eager to help you take that first step. I'm Jerry Gretzinger, your host for Addiction, The Next Step. Until we see you again next time, be well.